Greg Ford is a retired United States veteran, a husband, a father, and now a Republican candidate for South Carolina House District 98. He tells me the issues he'll tackle if elected for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Greg Ford, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. Needless to say, you are a husband, a father, a retired United States Air Force veteran, and now you are a Republican candidate for South Carolina House District 98. And as we sit here right now, Greg, what area does that cover?
It covers the Dorchester area, so basically Trolley Road to Dorchester Road, down to Ashley Phosphate to Patriot. So it's a pretty big rectangle right there.
And as I told you yesterday over the phone, that's part of my running route, so I know that area very well.
Yes, sir.
But obviously, as I mentioned earlier, you are a retired United States Air Force veteran. You're a husband and a father. And of course, you live in House District 98. So why this? Why now?
I was sitting back just after COVID, and I was starting to watch some things happening to my daughter or happening with my daughter from the school system. And it just struck me, deep in my heart that I can't sit at home and not be part of the solution. And I decided to go ahead and run. So I've been trying to figure out how to get into politics, for the last couple of years. And this year, we're really putting it on, and we're going to try to take the seat and go up to the state house and help try to shape the legislation that'll protect our future.
And I want to talk to you about that in just a second. But
Yes.
Greg, let me ask you this. How then do you make House District 98 competitive so that South Carolina can be better tomorrow?
It's so complex. Once we start looking at all these different areas, there's so many complex issues that we got to deal with. That it comes from the money side, the regulation side, the law side. I mean, population side, ideological. I mean, there's so many things that we have to put together in this equation that it's really going to take some time to really get in there and understand, really study and figure out the root causes, and then start attacking them at that point.
What is the top root cause right now in House District 98?
So for me, for the population, a lot of the population is infrastructure.
Yes.
That's a big thing that I hear a lot when we knock on doors. One of the things for me, I think we need to really start looking at our education system, our education of our youth, our next generation. We got to protect that and make sure we give them the tools to conquer, whatever they need to do and flourish once they get out into adulthood.
So what tools do you have right now that can make these students much better in the future?
So I am a doctorate of education student right now. I should be doing a dissertation to finish that up. So have a long history of education, and I have a lot of contacts within the education realm, from superintendent to Orangeburg,
Yes.
Chief of staff down in Charleston County, some folks working in the Dorchester County school system, Colleton County school system, school board. I want to work with them to try to figure out what we can do to better our school system to make sure we get out of this number 42 nationwide and make sure our kids get the proper education they need.
You talk about those contacts in those particular school districts that we all know and love. So what current public-private partnerships would you be in favor for House District 98 for those students?
So public-private partnerships. So one of the guys I ran against, David Johnston, that come in third in the election.
Right.
Him and I have had a lot of conversations. We like to look at the trade school opportunities. We need to get the basic education down packed and try to figure out how to move that forward. And then once we get that underway, we'd like to start bringing in some trade school opportunities for our students.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, as you know, and like everyone else knows, Greg, there's so much going on right now in the world. So what ideal trade programs will be good for House District 98?
So right now we're looking at the industries that are around. So we're going to end up having some things like Boeing. We
Yes.
might need to start doing something with maintenance there. We got Volvo that's just north of us. We got Scout Motors that's supposed to be putting some sort of a manufacturing there.
Right.
But we also have some AI stuff. So I like to get into some technology, which I think is the future. We need to make sure we bolster up some of those opportunities for our students, I believe.
And you talk about AI, and that's a very controversial topic, as you know, when you talk to anybody. So, how would AI be effective for many of those students in House District 98?
So, talking to some of the folks, I had a meeting with Rom Reddy not too long back.
Right.
Dorchester. One of his initiatives is try to bring AI into some different areas, and him and I had a very in-depth conversation about how AI is utilized within the school system. I want to make sure we, mitigate any data collection or anything along those lines. And what he was telling me was there's some opportunities for reading enhancement
Okay.
and mathematic enhancement for some of the tools that'll help a kid read or learn how to do some mathematical equations, which I think is a very useful tool since we're already lacking in the number of teachers we have, and the classroom sizes are pretty expanded at this point. So I think these opportunities are there. I just need to do a little bit more research to make sure I'm comfortable fully with these things being implemented, and then we'll go from there. But I want to make sure we use our technology, but we don't allow it to run rampant.
You talk about Rom Reddy, who obviously is a part of the Doge, South Carolina organization. He lives right here on Upper Palms, by the way.
Yes, sir.
That data collection, what is flawed about that, and how will AI rectify that situation?
So there's a lot of fear that the AI is going to be collecting data on our students and the kids themselves. That's one of the fears. I need to get down into the root and figure out in the system themselves to make sure we mitigate any of those opportunities. And if it is from the state level, I want to make sure we have some regulations that does not allow that to happen.
What legislation would be ideal right now if you could get elected and be in Columbia in January?
The ideal legislation for me, the very first thing that I want to work on is income tax mitigation or elimination. So there's a bill up there right now, I believe, sponsored by Jordan Pace,
Right.
and it is to completely abolish the income tax. I will champion something along those lines day one when I get up there. I want to make sure we get as much money, our taxes down as much as we can, as much money back in the constituents' pocket to where they can make the decisions versus the government making the decisions with their money.
So if you were to abolish the income tax, what would you replace that with?
So that's a thought that I get. I get that question a lot. So I look at it as we don't necessarily need to replace that money. We need to figure out how to cut that money out of the budget or cut back. And if you start looking at some of the research, if you go to something like Cato Institute or
Right.
Economic Research
Sure.
Institute, every one of those say that if you cut 1% on your income tax, your GDP within that year should jump by 1%. That's worldwide. So we just got a 0.5% income tax relief or rebate or reduction, whatever you want to call it, last year. So we should have some data coming in for that here pretty soon. And if that comes in and says, hey, we're GDP jumped by 0.5%, we should be on track. But here's the other side of it.
Yes, sir.
We have just under a 10% population increase every year for the state of South Carolina. We have just under 10% or 10.5% increase in Dorchester County in our district every year. We just had a reassessment of all of our home taxes. We just had a reassessment of all of our vehicle taxes.
Right.
We just had, all these things. We just had a stacking tax. We had a hospitality tax. We had all these taxes put on. So in my mind, we should have no issue with revenue. We have an issue with spending. So we need to figure that out. So if we take out the income tax, say we drop it 3%, we go down to a 3.2. We should have a GDP jump by 3.2 or 3%. And then we should have income increase because we have a population increase and we have a cost increase and we have more taxes because everything costs more. But then we also need to figure out the spending side. Our budget for the state right now is jumped by is 1.5 times what it was pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, it was $9 billion. It's 14.5 or 14.7 billion right now. So we need to figure out what in the world is going on, and we need to get those costs down somehow.
Okay. What pork projects in District 98 right now that you would actually get rid of if you could?
I don't know 100% right now. I need to get the data in front of me
Okay.
and study it, because if I say something right now, it would just be off the cuff, and I'm
Okay.
not 100% sure on it. So that's not a question I'm able to answer at this point without having the knowledge or the study time. Right now, being not a legislator,
Yes, sir.
I'm not privy to all the information. So from looking from the outside looking in, it would be arbitrary to make a decision on one of those.
Now, when in regards to the GDP, Greg, where was that in 2020 versus right now?
I'll have to look at that as well.
Okay.
So I don't have that number right offhand right this second.
Okay.
So that would be something that I would, through my doctoral program, we did a lot of study through data analysis and correlations, statistics. So we can figure out if something has a correlation of increase or decrease, and we can look at the data and figure out where it goes.
And you talk about where things should go. Let's talk in generalities about obviously growth.
Yes.
How do you grow District 98 with smart growth?
So I had this conversation 2 or 3 days ago, and one of the conversations we drove was in disproportionate pay for teachers or per student in the school system versus Berkeley versus Charleston and DD2, DD4. So we had the conversation, and it took us down a rabbit hole of proper development with a good ratio of businesses versus homes.
Right.
We have a lot of homes right now. Act 388 is kind of chopping, our income out or our school funding. So we need to look at that. And then the growth wise, we need to figure out how to get some small businesses in here. And we need to grow a proportionate number of homes to small businesses. But as a state level,
yes, sir,
I don't get to say in that. That's county council.
Right.
But I'll be on the elected delegate and we'll have those conversations.
Yes.
But I think we need to figure out a solid ratio and get it to where we grow everything. You can't stop growth. Any town, city, or anything that completely stuffs out growth is doomed to fail at some point. It turns into a ghost town. So we don't want to stop growth. We need to catch up. We're in the accordion effect right now. We got a lot of growth in houses, but our infrastructure didn't catch up with it. Obviously, Dorchester Road, Ladson Road, Trolley Road, all our roads. And then we have some issues with some flooding through our housing areas because our water runoff, things like that. So we need to figure all of that out. I believe our county council, I like to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're trying to work on some of this stuff. We just need to figure out how to get the funding and get it done, because we're building, and these things are still getting further behind.
Yes, sir. I want to get back to that in just a second, but you said a lot previously in the previous answer, I should say. So I want to break it down a little bit. So let me ask you then, how many businesses do we have versus homes in District 98?
I don't have those exact numbers right now.
Okay.
I do know in my district, there's right around 37,000 residents.
Wow.
I don't know how many homes there are when I go look at our home figures for doing elections.
Right.
I believe there's right around, so I'm running in the Republican primary.
Right.
So looking at the Republican houses, there's right around 7,000 houses.
Wow.
So I'd imagine it's probably right around 20,000 houses, because the Democrat will have probably the same, and then we have quite a few that's not registered, so they won't have a number on there.
And Greg, I understand earlier during the conversation you talked about obviously the need for a number of homes that are for your area since the growth is coming in the next couple of years. So what is it? Do you need affordable housing? Do you need attainable housing? Or is it workforce housing that the area actually needs?
So I would like to see single family homes with some sort of a lot line, a property, because they're stacking them all on top of each other, which would give us some pervious surface,
Right.
or porous surface for water, and we need to have, some, obviously we need affordable homes for everybody, but, the home prices are getting out of hand. So if we start talking about affordable homes, I want to make it to where it's free market. I'm a big free market person.
Okay.
So if we have homes that are out here, free market's going to drive those prices down. If we do affordable homes that's subsidized by the government, now we have, it could start driving up. There's some equations there that we need to figure out as well. So
Yes, sir.
go ahead.
Oh, no, no, you. I was going to let you continue.
No, we just need to figure out, what we need. That's for the county basically to figure out.
Right. Yes, sir.
Not me as at state level.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And obviously you talk about, those affordable homes. So what type of jobs do you actually need for House District 98 right now?
I think we're going to go back to that trade school thing. Looking at the industries that are coming in, we need some sort of a maintenance. We need, hands-on mechanical and technology is what we're driving in our area. From what I know,
Yes, sir.
we have building, obviously, so structure that's hands-on again. So that's we need jobs that pay is what we need. We need something that has, a reasonable salary that is sustainable for our constituents. So mechanical is basically where we're at, or hands-on style.
And I know you got to run, but let me ask you really quick because I'm sitting here in downtown Charleston on the peninsula where I grew up, born and raised on the peninsula. But
Yes.
there's a lot of traffic right now because you have the Food and Wine Classic over here. You have an event at the College of Charleston, and you have Y'all Fest on King Street. So that traffic is backed up. What is your 5-point plan to reduce traffic in House District 98?
We got to get some infrastructure put in. We have to get infrastructure. It's going to be what road. So first thing I want to do is talk to the DOT.
Okay.
My plan is to get up to Columbia, and we want to get the DOT decisions brought back down to the county. So it'll be from Columbia down to the County Transportation Council, which is within the county council.
Right.
So if we can get it down to that, or its committee, I'm sorry, if we get it down to there, the money, they can start deciding what they do with the roads. But one of the biggest roads that we need to fix in my area is Dorchester Road. We need to either figure out how to widen it. We need to figure out how to get the flow to flow through it a little bit better. So once we get up to right there at Parlor Road to Ladson Road to Trolley Road, those 3 lights right there backs up every day. Once you get past it, it flows well. Right before it flows real well. Going the opposite way is to Bosch and Cross County.
Yes.
We need to figure out the timing for those lights somehow. I believe that'll help. And then we roads. We got to get our roads put in, and we got to get the roads to be maintained. That's the biggest thing. You asked for 5 points. That there's only one point that we need to have is we have to have our infrastructure put in, and it needs to be done now. They've been trying to fix this road for Dorchester Road. You'll hear from legislators all the way back to 2010-ish saying, I'm going to fix Dorchester Road. They haven't touched it yet. So we need to figure out why that hasn't been touched, and we need to figure out, what we need to do to cut through the red tape and get that thing, some work happening on it.
Let me ask you this. What 10-year plan would you submit to the Department of Transportation to correct the backlog of maintenance and actually fix those roads in District 98?
So bringing that decision back down to the county level, to the County Transportation Committee, I'll be able to sit in there with them and try to figure out, what's going on. Right now, all the decisions, we have to submit it up to Columbia, the way I understand it. And then the DOT makes their decision up there with what happens in our county. Well, they're not necessarily the ones that has to deal with it down here. So I think moving it back down to the county level, our people that actually has to deal with it can make the best decisions on what needs to happen and what the next step needs to take place.
Yes, sir. Okay. So let me ask you this then. How would you actually create a permanent funding source for maintenance and road capacity in your district?
So that'll be with the funding coming back down from the DOT.
Okay.
It'll go through the gas tax,
Oh,
the
yeah.
vehicle registration. I believe there's some that's on our home tax bills.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, I need to look at that. I believe there's some maintenance in there. And then sales tax. When we do the fuel tax, that's in there. Um, so all of that will come in. We just need to figure out how to distribute it across the different counties, I believe, because I believe it goes up to the state level,
Yeah.
then it needs to be, divvied back down. Obviously, the vehicle registration home tax will come directly to us in Dorchester County. And then District 98 is part of Dorchester County. So what happens in 97 wires, 90, 98, and then I think there's 105, I believe, is next to us, or 104. So we need to figure out how all that gets split up once it comes out of the district. Or we just say, hey, all five of the counties or the seats that are in our county will work together to figure out what's going on. Or we turn it over to the county transportation committee and they do what they need to do. So getting it back down to home, I believe, is where it's critical. And once we get that, we'll know what money we need, and then the money flow, we'll figure out where that comes up from with the income from the taxes.
Speaking of taxes, in your mind, Greg, is the gas tax here in South Carolina effective?
So far, I don't think it has been. Right now, I believe, if I remember going off the top of my head, I believe we're pushing 40, 45 cents a gallon in taxes from the local and federal level. If you look at the local, we have the 1 cent tax that we just put back on there, which should have been 12 cents, I believe, this year. Or last year, we maxed out at 12. And they extended it again for another 15 years, I believe, last year, or whatever the number is. They extended it. I know that. But looking around, I don't see very many of our roads getting worked on. And if you look back and look at any of the articles, they collected a bunch of this money to do certain projects, and then they returned it back at one point several years ago. So we need to figure out how that's worked, how that works properly, or we need to figure that out.
And I know, I mean, I was just on Ashley Phosphate just the other day. I know they're working on that. But besides Ashley Phosphate right there near Patriots, as you mentioned, and then Dorchester and Ashley Phosphate, what other roads in your district actually needs to be repaired right now?
Dorchester Road, we need to get widened. Ladson, I think, needs a little bit of repairs. Trolley's in pretty fair shape. Once we start getting into some of these home neighborhoods, we have to maintain some of those roads. So my neighborhood and the next neighborhood over, their roads are starting to get pretty beat up. So we need to look at some of those, but that's individual. That's a small number of occupants or constituents that affects. We need to make sure our main thoroughfares and our main travel routes are maintained properly, in my opinion, first.
Greg Ford, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close Ups.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, sir.
Oh, you're very welcome.